Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County Pre-Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, December the 6th, and the time is now 4:02. I do apologize for being a few months later than usual. We do have a busy agenda tonight. We have a pre-commission that'll last from 4 to 5. At 5 o'clock, we have a hearing to get to, and then we'll pick back up with our regular commission meeting just after that hearing is over. There is a need to go into executive session today. Then our regularly scheduled meeting is at 6 o'clock this evening. So this time I'd like to welcome everyone here and officially call this meeting to order for pre-commission. And the first order of business will be the approval of minutes from the November the 15th, 2022 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Wilder. Can I get a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. I will let Ms. Ross read most of the topics tonight. As you can tell, my voice is a little out, and I have a light on for Commissioner Watkins that I'll get to in just a second. Commissioner Watkins.
Thank you, sir. Again, I stay continually concerned about the gun violence occurring in our community. I think it was 62 when I went to bed last night, and I think we're at 65 now. I would just like for us to take a moment and consider some legislation, adding some legislation to our agenda today that attempts to address root causes of gun violence. I think I've emailed you and the rest of the commission proposal on violence interrupter programs. I have a hard copy here today. I just hope I can get a motion in a second so we can continue this conversation at a later point in our meeting today. Again, it doesn't actually allocate any funds, but it does try to get the ball started.
Yeah, this is what you and I have been discussing on the violence interrupters. Okay, yeah. I don't think there's any need to do a vote today. Be happy to consider that if you like to. We had previously discussed, and I agreed to do an RFP as you requested. Doesn't require any vote to do that. The mayor can do an RFP anytime. There are a couple of changes that need to be held to that particular RFP that I'd rather not discuss right now, but certainly we can, and I put that in the email to you. But I do plan on doing the RFP and walking it through the procurement process in the next couple of weeks. I'll
just like you mentioned, there are some points of concern, and I wouldn't mind hearing from the rest of the commission, because I don't know why it should just be a limited conversation between me and you at this point. But I guess that's been my concern the whole time. I haven't been able to get a timeline of what I will do an RFP means. At one point you had mentioned a year from now, and I'm, again, part of this legislation also asks that the administration completes the process in 90 days, and I don't think that's unreasonable.
Okay. You want to make a motion to add that, and we'll see if you get 5 votes. If so, we'll take care of it.
Yes, I'll make that motion now.
Got a motion by Commissioner Watkins. Do we have a second?
There you go.
Commissioner Watkins would like to make a motion. Apparently he sent you a copy of the, several of the commissioners a copy of the resolution that he was going to be proposing concerning violence interruptions. You haven't received any copy? Okay.
Oh.
What he would, thank you, to repeat what he had just stated.
Oh, I apologize if you didn't receive an email from me. But the violence interruption program, right now we have an existing program in Pleasant Hill that's been working through Cure Violence. And the idea of this legislation is to expand it into, last time when we did it, we just left it open for the organizations to tell us where they wanted to go. This legislation makes sure that we're receiving requests that they have someone on site at Atrium Healthcare. There's a site set up in the Houston Avenue corridor, in the South Macon corridor, and that the work of the RFP gets generated within 90 days. My concern and why setting up that timeline and a report back, just like that homelessness RFP for the census survey that we passed like a year ago, there's been nothing. It's canceled, and I just want more, accountability is, why I'm talking about doing a resolution, because we can drag our feet in our back and forth conversation for a while when there's no, outside accountability. So.
Okay, thank you.
Got a motion by Commissioner Watkins. Do we have a second?
It's a second.
Second by Commissioner Lucas, of adding this to the agenda. All in favor of adding this item to the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Appears to fail for lack of 5 votes, so we'll not be adding that to the agenda right now. We're going to move on to appointments of authorities, boards, and committees. Item A is a resolution appointing Monica Swain to the Board of Directors for River Edge Behavioral Health Community Service Board. I think most of you are familiar with Ms. Swain, and she is, she's here. How you doing? I apologize. I do see you there, and you got your blue on today. You can come up if you like to. Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Lucas. Any discussion? Commissioner Lucas, you have something to add?
Yeah, I recently attended a luncheon that the district attorney sponsored, and it was a luncheon where family members of the victims of violence in our community were invited, and they were entertained. They were given tips as to how to deal with all of the stages of grief that everybody goes through, all the rest of their lives when they lose someone. Monica was the speaker there, and I think everybody in the room who had experienced, I know I experienced 17 years ago losing my 26-year-old. It wasn't to gun violence, but it was, it was on the football field. And what Monica had to say really helped. I think everybody was, there weren't any dry eyes in the room. And I knew her previously. I knew of her work and her consulting business and all of that, but I was just really moved by what she had to say, and so it was just an honor to vote for her for this position today.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas, and we do appreciate all the service that she has provided, and we do have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of adding Monica Swain to the Board of Directors for River Edge, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. Be sent to consent agenda. Item B is a resolution appointing Wade Scott to the Macon-Bibb County Board of Health. That's sponsored by Mayor Pro Tem Seth Clark and Commissioner Elaine Lucas. You want to make those motions? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark, second by Commissioner Lucas. And I do believe Mr. Scott is here. Well, thank you for being here tonight, sir. Excellent choice, and I'm glad you guys both serve on that board already, and you recognized what he brings to the table regarding our health board. So thank you for being here today. We have a motion and second. If there's no further discussions, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item C is a resolution appointing Christopher Howard to the Macon-Bibb County Library Board of Trustees. Thank you, Mr. Howard, for being here today. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. The last appointment is item D, a resolution appointing Ron Shipman to the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority. And Mr. Shipman, thank you for being here today. And Mr. Shipman, if you don't know, in our Chamber Board Awards program the other day was awarded the Citizen of the Year from Macon-Bibb County. So thank you for being here today, and accompany our Industrial Authority Director there as well. So we have a motion to approve Mr. Shipman. A motion by Commissioner Wilder. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Thank you very much, and thank you guys for being here tonight.
Taking the position that
Sam Hart.
Sam Hart is leaving.
We gave Mr. Hart, Chairman Hart, his going away.
Yeah, there
for
are a
the
lot of
authority.
folks who are listening, who are watching, who don't know all that we know.
Chairman
So
Hart
I
was
just wanted
appointed to that board by the previous mayor, Robert Rickert, to serve. His time ended on October 27th, I believe, this past year. He is also retired, as the chairman of the Macon Water Authority Board. Chose not to run again this time, and Gary Bechtel will be sworn in for that position come January. Mr. Shipman is now the interim director at the Macon Water Authority, my understanding. They voted for that, and he's already begun to work. And then, so he'll be taking over Chairman Hart's position on the Industrial Authority Board. So thank you. All right, we're going to move on to new alcohol beverage licenses, and at this time I'll ask our clerk, Ms. Ross, to read those, and we'll have Mr. Howard come down to give a recommendation on those.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. New alcohol beverage licenses. The first one is for Ovations Food Service, LP, doing business as Macon Centralplex Coliseum and Convention Center, located at 200 Coliseum Drive, Macon, Georgia.
As my motion, can we get a second? Got a second by Commissioner Wilder. Any questions regarding that? This is the Coliseum and just renewing their license. Is that correct, Mr. Howard?
That is correct.
Okay.
New business and for the Coliseum, were they late?
This is their initial application for this license.
Or they didn't have alcohol before?
They used other means for having alcohol at that location before this application was filed.
All right. Done.
Next is Ovations Food Service.
You have to come over.
Oh,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Moving too fast. I'm trying to find out how, I want to be refreshed on how it was done before. I think somebody was asking that, and then how this changes it, and then I want to know about the revenue that, what, I read through it, but I want the layman's explanation as to what happens with the monies that they make.
I did not review that information. Is that something? I did not review as far as the revenues and everything. I reviewed to determine whether or not it met the legal requirements. And so I can get an answer to you for that question, Commissioner, if you like.
Who's
Dr.
the
Moffitt,
county manager here?
Yeah, he's here. Can you answer Commissioner Lucas' question on that? I think this is only on the license, but she has a further question that's not on the agenda, but she's inquiring about the financial relationship with this particular company and what, how the money is dispersed, I understand. I know we're under a
I
contract.
thought you were talking directly about the alcohol license, and I don't know what that would be. But if you mean overall, they have a agreement with us that they run these facilities, and as you remember previously, we had people that lost lots of money, and we had to make up the difference. In the last years, they've been able to have a profit, and so when there is a profit, there's a I'd have to actually go back and look at the specifics, but that's divided, and they get some sort of management fee, and the rest of it remains in that fund, and then they go and have another good year of bringing good acts in and making money and providing services in the community.
So they will have the alcohol license, and they'll be exclusive, that they'll be the one entity
That I don't know.
providing
That's him.
providing all of the alcohol at all of the events at Coliseum and Auditorium. Is that right?
They will be the license holders, and so that will be up to them how they sell how the alcohol is distributed. But the license for this establishment will be held by the applicant or the agent, Daniel Vinny, and so that is how he'll be in charge of sales of alcohol or distribution of alcohol at those locations.
Okay, and the Daniel Vinny, is he employed by, what is it, Ovations? Is that the name of the?
He is, alcohol licenses have to be held by individual human beings, and he is the he is the human being who was. I'm trying to avoid using the word
Oh, wow.
person. Yeah,
Okay.
but he's the individual who was designated to be the agent for this alcohol license.
So I guess I'm asking, is he an employee of Ovations, that entity?
I can get you an answer to that question. I just know that he is the person. He is the individual.
Yeah,
who
I
is-
saw that, and I saw his picture, his ID, all of that was included, and that was why I was asking the question, because that was an individual, and the license would be under Ovations. Is that right? That's who's.
It'd be held by the individual, and I can get you an answer as to his employment relationship to Ovations Food Services.
I would just like to know the relationship that all of these folks have to each other. I know previously, you know what? I was asking how this was handled previously, and it was my understanding that we held the liquor license. You know, nobody else could come in and sell or anything. But I just want to know what this change means, and also who carries the liability insurance, or is it covered under Macon-Bibb's overall insurance? What I mean,
So this is I've specifically reviewed for the licensure to determine whether they should be approved for licensure or the application denied. My review has shown that they meet the requirements to sell alcohol for the licensure they applied for, namely the consumed on premises, distilled spirits, malts consumed on premises, and wine consumed on premises at the business location, which is the Coliseum, 200 Coliseum Drive.
okay, and you don't know anything. Nobody knows anything about the liability, the insurance. How, if there's some action that somebody were to bring, who would be responsible? Are they as the ones who contract with us? Who?
The people who, if you're talking about the legal part, those companies who contract to do this work would hold the ultimate liability. Of course, in any event that something happens, they're going to sue everybody, but they're ultimately supposed to be the person responsible for it.
And they have to carry, what, $1 million? Is that what they have to have?
I think it's actually more than that, but it's at least a minimum $1 million.
Okay.
Typically, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Typically, when we do the liability part, if there's a contract, and I haven't reviewed this contract, we do put in a requirement that we're the additional insured, that they carry the liability, but it doesn't mean we can't get sued, but they would probably have the liability insurance on this.
Commissioner Watkins, you have a follow-up?
Yes. So I guess kind of following up on Commissioner Lucas's line of questioning, I guess, like, I know that we own the Coliseum Auditorium, and then we have a contract with Spectrum to manage that facility. And I guess I'm asking, is Ovation a subsidiary of the county, a subsidiary of Spectrum, or a third party, completely new?
So Spectrum's been bought out by
the-
OVG 360.
Yeah, the beauty of text messaging. So I'm asking, and they said this is really a renewal. They've always had the alcohol license, but they have formally changed their name.
Right.
So in a sense, it's a renewal that this is the way they've been operating. It's just that they've used the name Spectra, went to Oakview. This is Ovation. So it is just the new name.
Thank you.
Okay, so OVG stands for Ovation something, I guess?
That's correct.
Okay.
We do have a motion and second. There's no further questions. We'll call for a vote.
That while they're texting, they need to, since they know all the questions that were asked. I'm just asking because I want to be able to, people call us and ask us about these contracts and things. And they think that we're, the ones to have the answers. And I guess we should. We're elected. We're supposed to be able to know all the details and then answer questions. And I was just curious as to what the changes were. And you've answered some of the questions about the name change. And I had heard that there was a change in or transfer or something as far as Spectra. And they do an excellent job. And the bottom line is getting better because we used to have to underwrite the Centroplex to over $1 million, $2 million, and then it keeps coming down every year. But I just want to be able to understand the full scope of this thing and the insurance part of it. So I'll just think that somebody will get that answer as far as the insurance. Those were my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
I apologize. It's just he was not prepared to have any discussion outside of with a contract tonight, just on the license that he's here for. That's Attorney Howard, but we can certainly get that information. OVG 360 is what used to be Spectrum. They do all the bookings and things for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Ovations is food services, that part, the limited partnership that actually runs the food and beverage portion of that's my understanding of that.
Right. That would be something else that we probably need to know about, how the food service is done, and then who determines who increases the parking fees. Because one year, the parking used to be $5, and I'm not complaining about it increasing, but it was increased. We didn't know anything about it. We as commissioners didn't know anything about it, and all of a sudden there was a sign up there. We need to know about that kind of stuff, but we apparently didn't have any say-so as far as this was in the past. It's still $10, at least it was Saturday when I went through there. But, there are a number of things on these kinds of contracts where someone else is acting on behalf of the county and handling a large amount of our money and then reporting to us and telling us how much they've saved us or how much we need to pay them, that kind of stuff. We need to know those kinds of details. At least I do. Maybe nobody else wants this information, but I like to be able to explain to people what's going on, whether I was a part of putting it together or not. They call on us to explain, and I appreciate y'all providing that information.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Commissioner Walker, do you have a follow-up, sir?
Yes, sir. And it's probably just a minor thing, but so I was reading the contract, or at least the packet that we have, and so Global Spectrum LLP is OVG, I guess. Ovations Food Service will provide food and beverage services at the location per a food and beverage service agreement with Global Spectrum LP. And then in another section, it says Spectra US LLC, 50% general partner and 98% limited partner, and Ovations Food Services, 50% general partner, which just leads me to believe that it's not a replacement, but there's now a new third party involved named Ovations Food Services that wasn't there before, or do I just totally misunderstand our relationship with Global Spectrum?
I think Ovations is just a limited partnership with the same company. Nothing's changed except for the name.
It seems like we say nothing's changed, but on our end, it seems like the third party would need money to operate, so some portion of the food sales or the drink sales would now go to Ovations, where it was a two-way split between Macon-Bibb County and Global Spectrum. There's a third person that wasn't there before now, and I guess I'm curious, do they get a third, or what does that look like, or is that irrelevant at all?
Well, y'all renewed the contract with this particular company last year, and we're bound by the contract there. This is only for the food and beverage licenses here, and Ovations is a limited partnership, another legal term, and they're one and the same with these two companies. They're all the same folks.
Right, so it was a 50-50 split, if that's what it was, and it's still a 50 split today, even though it looks like there's a third. It didn't cut our side down any. That's
Our fees haven't been cut anyway. They handle all the business there, and we get a net sum after it's all been paid and done, and nobody's getting an additional split with us.
but it would just be less going to us if they have also decided that Ovations needs a salary or money or something, because he didn't exist last year, and now it's at least one person, but it could be 50 people for all I know. Am I not making sense?
Okay.
So no, because it seemed like it would impact the net, or it could, if for whatever reason Ovations does have a contract that is significant.
Well, I mean, we get the same amount no matter what, on the contract.
But if it loses $1 million,
Well, that's always, I mean, any particular year, if they do a bad job, and we lose money, I mean, that's what was happening in the last several years before they got here. We were losing a lot of
the
money.
reason we got out of the problem because of cutting out things that were extra and making sure that it was kind of a one-to-one, two-way stuff between us and the county, when it could be having an extra janitor staff, having extra this and that, all the reasons that the county would have a negative impact. So I'm just asking the question.
I'm just not prepared to answer those, but I can get those additional questions for you. We thought it was just an alcohol license that was changing names to represent the way they've been doing business with their current official name. But if you want to write those questions down, I'm happy to get some more answers.
Commissioner Tillman?
I was just saying, I think we ought to just hold up and just make sure everything is in order, because what happens is there'll be other folks that's calling and inquiring, because when you're doing these contracts, and a lot of times you just think that that because people are doing business with us, and we trust the folks that's doing business with us that are reputable folks, but there are other times where folks want to say, give me an opportunity to be the vendor or the licensees or what have you. I don't know the ins and outs, but I can say what I know, and it's this. I try to keep up with what's going on over there, probably more so than others. And the contract may have changed. I'm sure that that David them could answer whatever our concern may be. It's just that we deal with so many contracts and so many folks. Sometimes these things only come up once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, and we don't often see them. And so questions do arise because people want to do business with us, and they're not necessarily doing business with whatever the name of that business is. They're looking at, we're doing business with Macon-Bibb. And so we just want to make sure that our attorneys and everybody and the commissioner's questions are properly answered and asked. And sometimes if we don't know, you know, we're government. The process doesn't necessarily always have to be rushed, because I think we can continue to do business. And I think we do have some good folks in place. And I yield.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Lucas?
I don't know what's on this particular item. I was trying to be recognized to ask that we table this and have a discussion as soon as possible on that particular item and all the details, and as well as the food service and how that is handled, the parking and how that is handled, how much Macon-Bibb gets of those different entities, because a lot of people think that Macon-Bibb gets all the money from the shows and that we get all the money from the parking and we get all the money from the food, the drinks, everything. And that's not the case. And so I want to be clear, and I was going to move to table for discussion, some more discussion on this. There have been a number of items that I've asked that we've got to get back with some more information. So That was what I wanted to do, Mr. Mayor, but you were so quick on the trigger.
And if I may, I do advise if y'all would like to table, y'all are free to do so, to continue at a later date. I do advise that you consider the alcohol license separate from other considerations. There are laws in place that have been reviewed, and it's my opinion that they meet the legal requirements to obtain a alcohol license. And y'all set the law. Y'all are the ones who determine and vote in the law that is applied to these applicants applying for an alcohol license. Y'all have set a very robust standard for them to meet. And at this point, y'all are acting as the judges as to whether or not the standard you have set for these companies has been met. So I just move y'all to take that into consideration when y'all make y'all's decision on this license.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Mr. Tillman?
I don't know if we're gonna go back, Mr. Mayor, but I don't think the legality of the license is at issue. I think what happens is when new people come up, you're choosing your own folks, and Macon-Bibb has an RFP process, an RFQ process, and other folks that's out there that want to do business with Macon-Bibb County. And so you just want to ensure that the process has been fair and that everybody has an opportunity to do business with Macon-Bibb. And I think the concerns that I'm hearing is, how was this company chosen? Because is it a company versus an individual? And so I think I'm not here. I can't answer those questions. Nobody here can answer those questions. And so I think that was kind of the concern. So to reconsider, I would ask for a reconsideration of the vote, if that's in order.
I voted no. I did not vote.
Okay. We have a motion to reconsider the previous vote. All those in favor of reconsidering the vote, please say aye. Yes. Not what I heard, but I mean, I'll be happy to recall it, and people can change their votes now.
Job. I've watched the numbers, the shows that they've brought and all of that, and I've just been very, very impressed. But I have some questions that I would like to get the information for. So that motion to approve this did not pass, I don't believe. Were there 3 votes against the passage?
Commissioner Tillman, I believe, voted for it, and so did Howard.
You voted for it?
Jones and Clark.
Okay, well, if that's the way we want to go and we want to approve it, and as you're saying, the alcohol is a separate thing, and I understand that. Just as long as we can have a discussion of the details on all of those different things, because I don't think everybody understands all that's involved in that contract. Same way with the airport. We are in a contractual relationship with that entity at the airport, and y'all, in looking at it, saw fit to put a director back in there, which is something that I agreed with. So I'm just saying, getting all the information, sometimes makes you take another look at how your contract is set up. So I don't have a problem with the alcohol.
Commissioner Lucas, Commissioner Tillman, saying point of order here.
Yeah, I was saying point of order because the motion was on the floor to reconsider the previous vote. So whether it passed or not didn't matter, because I made the motion to reconsider the vote, to be respectful to your concerns, to table the process. Now, it didn't have to necessarily be tabled, whatever the normal process is. We just want to get the answers. We can hold up, until we meet at our next meeting to be able to get all the information. So however y'all want to do it, but I did make the motion to reconsider to be respectful for what the concerns are and were. Thank you.
Okay. Was there a second to his reconsider? Commissioner Watkins? Okay. We'll take a vote on that. We have a motion and a second to reconsider. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Okay. That does not carry for reconsideration. We'll go ahead and move on to the second item, and since we've had this discussion and it involves the same company, we'll go ahead and remove this and put that on for next Tuesday, and we'll get Mr. Abiola here. He's recently had a new child, and he cannot be here tonight. So he's out, but I can have him here next Tuesday. We were only prepared to do the alcohol licenses because that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about re-litigating the contract that they signed already last year that we had this discussion on. But I'll be happy to get them here next week to ask whatever questions that you want to. So we're gonna move on to item C. Item C is Silly Rabbit Enterprises, doing business as Cheers Northside, located at 3852 Northside Drive. What is the recommendation?
My recommendation is approval on this license.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Can we get a motion from the floor? Motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item D is Sam 786 LLC, doing business as Family Food Mart, located at 605 Pinona Avenue, Macon, Georgia 31204. What is the recommendation from legal?
Approval.
Got a motion to approval. Can we get a motion from the floor? A motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second? Second by Commissioner Lucas. Any discussion? Hearing. Okay.
Yeah, we did it.
Okay. Commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem Carp, you got some answer?
Yeah, Mr. Howard, I was just hoping you could walk me through your inspection of the site.
Inspection, I did not physically inspect this site. My process is to review the submission documents and to check against the applicable law, be that Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances or the Georgia Code as appropriate, and determine based on the information I have been presented through the application process whether or not the standard of the law is met. And determined that it was so met in this circumstance.
And is the difference in some of the county attorney's office doing a more physical inspection, that when you do that when they apply as a Vice Mart or a Food Mart or something other than a grocery store like this one's applying for?
This one is it is a gas station. Sometimes there is some confusion that I see when they check which box they apply as, but this is a gas station. I did confirm it was a gas station with functioning pumps. But if there is this does not apply to this license, but if there is a determination to be made whether a store is a Food Mart or a Vice Mart, I either go down personally to inspect and inform the store manager on site, or I ask code enforcement to perform an inspection, in which they do promptly, and they provide a inspection report which shows whether or not it meets the criteria of a Food Mart or Vice Mart. Again, this is a gas station, so it doesn't apply to this.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for clearing that up. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item E is Zeb Q LLC, doing business as Sunny Barbecue Corporation, located at 5811 Zebulon Road. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item F is Dab's Cafe, business address 1000 Terminal Drive, Suite 200, Macon, Georgia 31216. What is the recommendation from legal?
Approval.
A recommendation of approval. Can we get a motion from the floor? Motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Howell. Any discussions? Hearing no discussions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item G is MAA 2595 Inc., doing business as Rocky Creek Supermarket, located at 2595 Rocky Creek Road, Macon, Georgia 31206. What is legal's recommendation?
Approval.
Legal recommends approval. Do we have a motion from the floor? Motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Howell. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item H is ABC Wine and Spirits located at 1194 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. What is legal recommendation on that?
Approval.
Legal recommends approval. Do we have a motion from the floor? Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. Any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Carton.
I just would like, I trust that it doesn't run afoul to the moratorium. I would just like a little clarification as to how it does not.
It does not, because it is a transfer of ownership from one owner to another, and under the law, you're allowed to transfer a license. You're not allowed to move it to another location, but you're allowed to transfer it from one owner to another owner without counting towards the moratorium.
We do have a motion and second. If there's no further questions, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Will be sent to consent agenda. We're going to move on to contracts, agreements for implementation or renewal. Item 4A is a resolution of the mayor to execute a reimbursable agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration in the amount of $66,107.89 for the FAA to perform a sighting study for the relocation of the distance measuring equipment, DME, and backup emergency communications system at the Middle Georgia Regional Airport to be paid from airport budget. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Howell. Any discussions? Commissioner Watkins.
No, last time when the director of the airport was here, we I think we passed like a large package of projects or budgets for it. Is this part of this when it says out of the airport budget? That's something we approved that last week and now it's coming back around? Or totally separate from that, I think it was like $35 million thing?
This is totally separate. This is actually relocating the DME, which is necessary there for the operation of the airport.
And another follow-up with the airport was concerning the local and minority participation that they had been participating in. I know, again, at that last meeting, we approved a large chunk of money for it. And he said that there were some federal guidelines, but they weren't sure about. I know I personally hadn't received any email follow-up on that subject. So I was wondering, did that exist or what was going to happen?
I'm not sure what you're asking. I believe when Mr. Ford testified, provided information to the commission, he indicated that they had federal guidelines and procurement guidelines that had to follow here. I'm not aware of
He
any
didn't know
follow-up.
at the time were they 5% or 20%, and I think he was also going to provide information on who was the local and minority participation or what that number was. And like I said, I hadn't received any follow-up to any of those answers or questions.
I apologize. I don't remember that request being made for him to come back with any information. Again, that's separate and distinct from what we're asking for tonight.
This is a contract. I'm curious about, are we having any minority participation at the airport as per federal law? I'm sure we are, but no one can tell me. But now I'm approving yet another contract, and I still don't know the answer to said question.
Okay.
So while it's not relevant to you, it's germane to me.
But who said it wasn't relevant to me, Ms. Watkins? Who said it wasn't relevant to me, sir? Why are you being facetious? I didn't say anything about being relevant to me. I don't remember the question being asked to the gentleman to be back today. Otherwise, I'd have had him back today. So we're going to move on with
The question
with
was
this vote.
asked.
Commissioner Howell.
Just so everybody understands, DME stands for Distance Measuring Equipment. Currently, that's part of the VOR that's being decommissioned. Also, the DME, where it's currently located, would interfere with hangars being built, including the new Baldwin. If they wanted to build a new hangar, we have to go up or over or something to make that piece of equipment work. And it's not just simply moving it off one tower to another. It's a pretty big deal. So that particular thing, that's what this particular item is about, and pretty important to the doing the stuff that we're doing at the airport. It's separate, but it's certainly important.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. And that's a no from Mr. Watkins again. Ms. Moore, would you mind following up with Doug to make sure that we know what questions that Mr. Watkins wants to answer and see if he can provide those? Thank you.
Sorry, just clarify for that, because I was trying to make sure with our attorneys, we have 6 events at the Centerplex and wanted to make sure we're still okay for them selling alcohol this weekend, so I was distracted by that. You were talking about which federal grant, and because they all require.
so I won't have to ask the question multiple times over multiple grants. What has the local and minority participation to this point been?
Okay.
And following up in the future, because we just approved, again, a large sum of money for, I guess, multiple projects. What is the DBE participation plan going forward?
Okay, I will make sure that Doug can get us that information on any of the contracts that have been issued to date, because a lot of what you see, like when we did the CIP, was just approving the funding to start the procurement process, so none of those dollars would be counted at this point because they haven't gone out to contract. They've just been approved by you all to say, yes, we do want you to go look for that procurement process. So you're looking for any of the past grants that have been issued in the last 2 years, 3 years, that are active, and what their DBE participation is at the airport.
Yes, and again, I'm actually concerned for countywide. I had asked the same question at that same meeting about the not the airport, but the Macon Mall. That's a large track project that we're doing. I haven't received any information concerning that question as well.
We are in the process of cleaning up our vendor list to make sure that we have everybody accurately calculated, so we can give those numbers to you. So I know that's in process as well. Is that what you were going to say?
And general government would be nice as well, because a lot of them were tractors, and I'm concerned about local and minority participation and what we've done to this point and what our plan is moving forward.
Well, I can do this in 30 seconds. Data in equals data out. We have bad data going in. I own it, and we're working on it. I've been working with the internal auditor, the procurement department, and Office of Small Business. We've been meeting here in the last weekly, trying to figure out the best way to track this data going forward, and working with New World is how they put it into the system. To give an example, some vendors can be labeled 3 or 4 different categories. They can be a veteran, they can be a woman. So that kind of skews the data when it comes to just pushing the button and presenting the percentages of what you want. So going forward, we are working on a plan how to calculate that. Also calculate and making sure that in these large contracts that they do report back their minority participation. Again, example, some of our major contractors in this community would be a white male. Our check would go to the white male, but then we do know that they have subcontractors that they give. So we have to make sure that that information is reported back we're going to come up with a better way to report that information back, give it through the Office of Small Business. So to answer your question about going forward, I understand you've been talking about this for a while. We've been working on it. There's a couple of things that need to happen to go in and clean up the current database, which we are working on to make sure, but it is self-reporting through the vendor pack, and some people don't check the categories that they have in there. So we're trying to figure out how we can make this a foolproof self-reporting system, make sure that it's accurate data. So again, Office of Small Business, the internal auditor, procurement, and myself are working on a plan and going forward.
And I'll wait.
Thank you, Dr. Moffitt. We have a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute and purchase and sell an agreement with Stage Right for the purchase of performance stage equipment in the amount of $141,600 be paid from the 2018 SPLOST Fund Culture and Recreation Coliseum property line item. Something that's already been approved, and this is just doing the contract. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Howell. Questions? Hear no questions. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item C is a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a change order to the engineering services agreement between Macon-Bibb County and Atlas Technicians Consultants, LLC, in the amount of $497,474 for the additional services related to the Bass Road widening project, paid from the 2018 SPLOST Funds Roadwork Bass property line items. Commissioners, you should have received a addendum or a copy of an exhibit in the last couple of days detailing out specifically what these funds are for. It's something that's been pre-allocated, and we're just going through the process. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any questions? Commissioner Watkins?
What's the total project cost? Oh, the original contract.
Good evening. The original project cost was $228,645. Previously, another change order was done, bringing the initial terms, increasing it up to $2,294,820. So this is a significant project, but this amount, this $497, still is above the 20% value and therefore requires commission approval.
Thank you, Ms. Beavers. Any further questions?
If I heard you right, it started at 200, then it changed to 2 point something million, and now it's an additional 400?
Yes, sir. So this vendor does both is doing the engineering work, and it's been a very involved process. So they're looking at renegotiating some of how the intersections may be engineered in the future to help move traffic through there a little bit easier.
And I guess not related to the legality, but just a follow-up to the local and minority participation. $2 million contract. Is this a local company or any of the subs, local or minority, or the things I'm interested in if, I guess, New World can produce for us?
No, they're not. This is just
They're not
engineering.
local.
This is one vendor. This is the engineering contractor. I mean, the design contractor.
Oh, so the 2 million has nothing, it's not a design build, it's just a design?
Yes.
No construction in the 2 million?
Correct.
Okay.
This is
That'll be
them-
let out at another day.
Right. This is them working with GDOT on the design.
Thank you. Wow.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and be sent to consent agenda. Item D is a resolution ratifying the signing of an extension of professional services agreement, AG Tag USA, in amount not to exceed $45,000 for the decommission of the legacy mainframe in the Information Technology Department to be paid from the IT Technology Department, IT Legacy System Professional Services Consulting Fees line item. A lot of information, $45,000 to do this, and is this mainly the clerk's office, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, this is for the clerk's office, Superior Court. We have a motion to approve. A motion by Commissioner Howell, do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Lucas, any questions? Commissioner Lucas?
Finish up that whole thing, because we've been doing, for a while, we were doing piecemeal, and there was some that didn't want to,
We only have
be on the same.
we only have one department left, and we're working on a solution for that department to go off. But as of right now, the clerk's office needs to stay on because her data's on there for child support and things of that nature, and that's being at such sensitivity. We don't.
Right.
She being a constitutional officer. She oversees her product, and so she's working on the software that she needs to do this. But she'll be the only one left on the mainframe. As soon as she switches off the mainframe, then we'll be done with it.
Okay, but everybody can share information that they need to
Yes.
share, because I think that was one of the problems too. They wanted to be sure
Correct.
that each
Yes.
sector had
All the data
access.
that was there has been switched over. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, that's good.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. Dr. Moffitt, just to make sure I'm clear, this does or does not include the clerk of the Superior Court?
She will be that'd be the only department left on the mainframe, and we are making plans to switch her over to another software.
So you have cooperation from that department to come on?
Correct.
Okay.
At some point in the future, yes, sir.
Some point in the future.
Yes, sir. We're working on it.
Thank you, Dr. Moffitt.
Doesn't sound like you got an agreement yet. You don't have a meeting of the minds, right?
Yes, we just got to make it happen.
Pardon me?
Yes, we just have to make it happen. We just have to go through the process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moffitt, Mr. Jones. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item E is a resolution to authorize the mayor to accept a lease financing proposal from Leasing 2 Inc. and negotiate a lease purchase agreement for the acquisition of 6 Supton, I guess I said it right, Supton, fire engines and 1 aerial platform truck from Macon-Bibb County Fire Department in amount not to exceed $7,847,395.08 to be paid from the fire department funds. This is not going to be paid all at one time. This is over several years, but we had to approve it all at one time. This is something that's already been in your CIP that you voted on before. Is that correct, Ms. Moore? Okay. So do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Wilder. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Jones. Mr. Jones, you have a question?
Question is this, are we doing it all at once because that locks down the price?
Yes, sir. And we're about to have a 10% increase by the 15th if we don't get this thing done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions, Commissioner Watkins?
Yeah, I think I heard you mention the CIP we passed a couple weeks ago. This is including that?
Yes.
All right.
Commissioner Lucas?
What happens to our fire engines? Are they auctioned, or does do other smaller cities purchase them, or
No,
what do we?
We use them
what
as
do
long
we-
as we can, and then at the end of their life, we surplus them and sell them to the highest bidder.
Ah, okay.
That is true.
But we use them as long as we can.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second. If there's no further questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and we sent to consent agenda. Item F is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to the rental agreement with Skip John LLC for the rental of that property commonly known as 6420 Mosley Dixon Road. I'm going to ask you to pass that until we come out of the executive session, so I want to put that in the calendar. We're going to move on to item 5A. Item 5A is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the Judicial Council of Georgia American Rescue Plan Act funding grant in amount of $1,246,466 with no local match awarded to the Macon Judicial Circuit. This is a award they applied for themselves and was granted that from the American Rescue Funds, and we're just the pass-through from the Macon Judicial Circuit. So I need a motion to approve. Got a motion by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second by Commissioner Lucas? Any further questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item B is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of additional coronavirus emergency supplemental funding awarded by the Criminal Justice Council for fiscal year 2022 in an amount of $15,000 with local match requirements having been waived for this grant cycle to the Macon Circuit District Attorney's Office. Can we get a motion to approve? A motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Lucas. Any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. We're going to take a break right now. We need to go into our hearing. We don't require a quorum to be here for our hearing. So if anyone wants to take a comfort break, now would be a good time to do that. But I'm going to ask our attorney, Ms. Beavers, to come forward to provide some information on what this hearing is about. And if there's anyone here to speak on that, I'll need to know at that time as well. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and call this hearing to order. It's at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, December 6th, and we've advertised that under our requirements. And at this time, I'll ask our attorneys, Ms. Beavers, to give us the information that we need and find out if we have anybody that's here today requesting any questions.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor, Macon-Bibb County. We're here for a public hearing on the abandonment of a portion of right-of-way adjacent to the property at 666 Plum Street. This property we previously discussed and did a contract for surveying services to kind of determine where properties lines are to help us square up the right-of-way, see what we have, what we don't have, and help our citizens get a little bit extra property lines, a little bit of certainty, and see if we can get some money back on tax rolls. So this is the first portion that we have done as part of this project. We are going to be retaining a 10-foot right-of-way from the edge of the curb, as we previously did with the 672 First Street property. So we'll still have plenty of right-of-way for public access, as well as sidewalk maintenance of any issues with roadway, and for sewer systems should the water authority need access through there.
Okay, and this is the only hearing required?
This public hearing is required, yes, sir. It was published in it's been a while, excuse me. It was published in the Telegraph on November 22nd and November 29th for today at 5 p.m. So all that notice was publicized, and the only adjacent property owner has expressed interest in purchasing the property, so he did waive notice by letter.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody in the chamber here to speak on that particular issue or have any questions or concerns for our council? Seeing no one here, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. We're going to take a recess for about 5 minutes. We'll be back and we'll pick up with item 6A under finance ordinances when we return. Okay, we're back in our meeting, and so we're gonna move back in item 6A. Item 6A is an ordinance to authorize a budget transfer from the Tax Commissioner's Budget Office in the amount of $75,000 from salary and wages to full-time line item to contract labor, contract services line item. So this is a previously approved budget, but it's moving the items within that budget. So that's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and be sent to consent agenda. Item B is an ordinance to amend the FY 2022 general fund budget to $191,092,357 total revenues and $191,092,357 in total expenditures, resulting in a supplemental appropriations of that number, $1,531,529 in other end adjustments. This is the sure up from the year over. And Commissioner Tillman, you have a question, sir?
I called and spoke with our county manager about this yesterday because some of that language varies. Wording that was in there. Usually there's you're just used to seeing a more breakdown of what we're, supplementing. So I'm clear and I got an understanding on it. And so I'm good with that. But I just think, just for the public that's hearing and seeing that amount of money, if I don't know, I see the finance director's here, you're here, somebody just need clarification for the public because I'm clear on it and I support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. Any other questions?
So we not go.
Well, I mean, it didn't sound like a question. It sounded like a bunch of rambling. I didn't know what the
for
question
folks
was.
to just understand what we doing when we do that, because we passed a budget in June of last year, and so sometimes that we come back and we have to, that's all. I was just asking
Ms.
somebody.
Lucia, you mind giving the general public information on what we're doing here today for them?
This 1.5 million, we're not actually making a supplemental from fund balance. We actually had some overages in our SPLOST. So we're just adding some revenue money to that line item and increasing one of the departments that had to be increased was professional services, outside counsel, internal auditor. There was a health, they have a very small department. They only have 2 people in that department. I think there was a health insurance change in January, so any little thing in that department caused that to be off. That amount was only like $5,916. The labor contractual services for Safe Built went over slightly. The code enforcement budget was able to cover that from transfers from salaries into that line item, so they only required about $78,000 worth of a supplement. On the backup support that was with this documentation, everything below the line were just items within the departments that could cover those transfers within their own line items. However, the items that I had to transfer from were required to be brought to commission. So there were only 3 departments that actually exceeded their budget, which required a supplemental, and all items underneath the line on that page were just items where we were just truing up the budget, and they were actually able to cover those from within their own line items, but possibly a transfer from salaries into like an operating account, or an operating account back to salaries, which does require that to be brought to commission.
Right, and this is a normal occurrence.
Right, and this is something we do each year after we finish the audit entries, and then we try to true up the budget with some of the final things that have occurred.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Ms. Salucci. We did need a motion. So can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Howell. Any further discussions? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item C is an ordinance to approve a supplemental appropriation for the transfer of $48,342,682 from the fund balances of multiple funds to the fiscal year 2023 budget to account for outstanding purchase orders. As my motion, can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Howell. Questions regarding that? You give the same information, Ms. Lucci, on that one?
Yes, normally, this is something that we do at the end of the year when we're rolling purchase orders. Clearly, you cannot issue all your purchase orders and have everything actually paid for at a certain date or point in time. So we roll the purchase orders and the budget over into the next fiscal year. This number is a little bit larger than prior years, but that's due to the ARPA fund, the ARPA money coming in, and there was a significant amount of money procured or contracts procured for that fund. Also, there has been an increase in the SPLOST activity, which caused that fund to be a little bit higher than normal. But this is just the purchase orders that have been approved, contracts that have been approved. Those amounts were in the queue and at the end of the year, and they couldn't be paid for, and we're still continuing to pay for those, in the next fiscal year, and the budget rolls over with that money. Some of that is also capital improvements.
Okay, Commissioner Lucas?
Yeah, this is good information, and I'm glad you're here. Could we, in the future, if we have someone speaking on an item, if they could identify themselves for the public, because people are listening? No, you don't worry about it. I'm just making that as a suggestion. Someone from the legal department always does that, and I think it's helpful for people to know who it is. Or maybe the communications could put the name up, or however we can do it so that this whole thing is more informational. Because she's talking about budgets and all of that, and people are saying, well, unless they know her, they're saying, who is that that's giving me this information? We've got our names up there. So that's just a suggestion I hope will be implemented.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. We do have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item D is an ordinance to amend the Macon-Bibb County organizational chart to change the position of accounts payable supervisor to accounts payable specialist in the finance department. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item 7 is changes to the code. 7A is an ordinance to amend section 26-81 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances to make the county ordinance consistent with state law regarding the application of hotel motels excise taxes to extended stay residents of rooms for rent. And I'll ask our attorney to give us a brief synopsis of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Michael McNeil, Senior Assistant County Attorney, and this is an update to the code, but it doesn't really have any legal effect. The state hotel motel tax law was changed in 2008 to change the definition of permanent resident, so that basically if you're staying in a hotel for you have to pay the hotel motel tax. It was for the first 10 days of the stay. In 2008, they changed it to the first 30 days of the stay. There is a preemption term in the state law that says that local governments that apply the hotel motel tax have to apply it consistently with the state law. But we just never changed our code to update from the 10 days to the 30 days. And so we recently had a hotel guest that asked about that, and we noticed that there was a discrepancy, even though state law says apply it consistently with the state law, which is 30 days. And so we're asking you just to make it consistent.
Thank you for that information. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item 7B is an ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to amend Chapter 22, Article, I can't read that, 2 Division 2 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances to establish new policies and procedures governing solid waste collections and disposal in the Central Business District. And we have our attorney here who's going to give us her name and tell us what this is about.
Hi, Assistant County Attorney Sarah Davis. So what happened was several years ago, you passed an ordinance establishing a district downtown for the collection of trash specifically. And at the time, our solid waste department was responsible for picking up the trash. Since then, we have reduced the size of the solid waste department and quit picking up trash, relying on all the business owners down there to contract with commercial solid waste providers to pick up the trash for them. Not all commercial businesses did a great job doing that on their own without the county coming behind and motivating them. And so this is just going to be a little bit of motivation for everyone to contract to have their trash picked up downtown. This only will apply to commercial businesses. It will not apply to the residents living down there. In fact, the landlords will have to provide trash pickup on behalf of the residences, and the residences is that the right word? Residences? The people that live there get to residents. There we go. Get to throw away their trash, and they can pay for it through their rent or whatever. But this won't apply to them. They won't be punished for a violation of this code. So what this does is by March 31, all the businesses will have to get a contract with one of our vendors. We only have 4 right now. It's the companies that hold a franchise through our solid waste franchise. They'll have to enter a contract with one of those 4 and then provide the county with the name of which vendor they are working with so that we can keep up with that. And they'll have to renew that every year. And that March 31st date coincides also with the time that they file for their business license renewal. So it's a quick check-in. So in their business license renewal packet, they'll have to also make a selection that they're in the central business district and that they and that they have a commercial solid waste vendor picking up their trash. A couple other highlights is that there must be sufficient storage for all their garbage. They may share bins, but that's only if they can come to an agreement with their solid waste provider as to who will be sharing those bins. The county's not going to be in the middle of the sharing agreements. It's going to be done through the solid waste providers. There won't be bins in the right-of-way without permission of the county manager. There are a couple situations where we have bins in the right-of-way temporarily throughout the day so that the garbage trucks can pick them up, but they won't be allowed there without special permission from the county manager. You won't be allowed to store trash in anyone else's bins without their permission. That'll be a violation of the code. If you let trash accumulate, you have to remove it within 2 days of getting a written notice from the solid waste inspector, and that's any amount of trash accumulation. If you let a lot of trash accumulate, more than 2 cubic yards, which is the size of a small trash, it's bigger than bigger than your roll-off container, but it's the size of a commercial dumpster, a small one. If you allow more than that of trash to accumulate outside your property, then the county can, without notice, come clean it up and charge you for it. Another highlight is that the solid waste inspector position has been restored, and so there will be someone from solid waste, managing this downtown. But it can also be done by code enforcement or the sheriff's department. Each day that offense continues is a violation, and it's a $100 per day fine. And then the county manager can make new rules as long as it's approved by commission through resolution. And so those are the highlights, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Tillman?
Yeah, I just think when we do stuff like this, we need to at least have there been a meeting with the downtown businesses. Because I think once we do stuff like this, it's like we're implementing this and we're telling them what we're putting in place. But who has complained and who has input from the businesses?
Yeah, Dr. Moffitt's been meeting with that group, including Newtown for the last several months, including the businesses downtown. And really it's a problem that they recognize that we have, because you have a lot of alleys and sidewalks that have a lot of trash, and not every business is as good as other businesses to dispose of their trash. So from time to time, they may only get like 2 pickups a week when they need 3 or 4, and we have trash everywhere. And as we continue to grow, downtown continues to grow, we want to get ahead of this. But I know Dr. Moffitt's had several meetings with Aaron Keller, with Newtown, and several other businesses throughout the last several months to try to work on this. We already had this in effect as well. We just needed a little bit more bite to it, a little more teeth to it. People all along the business were supposed to come up with a trash plan, but they haven't done that. And now we're kind of codifying some of this information and making it consistent with the business license, and we've through the tax commissioner's office. So now they have to have a trash disposal plan. Every business will have to, so we'll know who has one and who doesn't have one. So we'll know who's causing the issues. Dr. Moffitt, I don't know if you need to add anything to that, sir.
Nope.
Commissioner Watkins?
Yeah. So I remember a couple years ago, and I was under the impression where we kind of dropped the ball at was that the UDA was supposed to be creating a overall trash master plan for downtown, and then the businesses would easily be able to know where they are located in this grid, and then this is the grid associated with your trash can, or whatever our master plan was, versus the businesses coming up with wild things and us just accepting that. And then I know from talking, I think I also kind of agree with Commissioner Tillman that a work session would be helpful, because I've received a couple of questions and have reviewed the legislation, and some of the questions seem somewhat valid because of the situation on the ground that got shared with me over the weekend. So one of the things, like in that first line, it goes through the section where it's designating, where it's like the owners, the leasee, the business owner would be responsible for turning in the plan, and then it uses so each owner, occupant, tenant, or leasee of developed property. So in a situation like in some buildings, one owner of the building, but then multiple, leasees or businesses or restaurants occupy. And currently they have some type of agreement with their landlord on whatever the trash is. And then that landlord very well have an agreement with the trash company. So when it comes to turning in business license, will each business still need to, or would the one owner of the business's paperwork cover whatever is needed?
Business. We're tracking it by business.
So, and I guess we would ask why. And again, today I pay my landlord rent, and my trash bin is in the back, and it's covered. I don't know exactly if he uses Republic or whoever, but why would we force them to stop that relationship if it's working for those?
They won't be required to stop. We just need to know who your provider is. What is your trash disposal plan? So if you're a tenant and you have a landlord and they furnish a trash can, that's your plan. We just have to know, make sure that every business that has a license downtown has a trash disposal plan that we can verify.
In that section again, it uses each owner, occupant, tenant, or leasee of developed property. How would they know which one is responsible for turning it in?
All of them are.
So for one address, we could receive two. We would receive something from the owner of the building and the tenant.
Everyone who gets that has a business license for renewal must check how they're disposing of their trash.
Business license for renewal, not developed property.
I don't understand your question, but
I'm just reading what's here. It says that each person who has if I own developed property, I occupy developed property, or I'm a tenant of developed property, I need to turn this in have a written service contract with a solid waste disposal company. And I guess what was mentioned to me is that there are people who, again, I rent.
Correct.
And he owns.
Correct. And he owns, so he has a business license, so he would submit his plan that I contract with X company to dispose of it. So the way to go through is with the business license. So
each address would have in that case, if it's not owner occupied, it would be two things on file, I guess.
Well, no, if you just live there, then you're not having a business license. You live there. And
no, I'm saying, but my occupancy is the business.
Yes,
and then he owns it. Someone else owns the building. So for that address, 800 Main Street, there would be two documents on file. That's the way we would be in compliance.
Because your tenant, your suite would have to identify, and then the next person next door to you would have to identify. Yes.
But okay. So I guess also in terms of the development plan, like we say, there'll be a lot, I assume that there are a lot of folks out of compliance or could be out of compliance.
Correct.
There would be, if they do it right, there could be a huge influx of, I guess, garbage bins needing to be downtown.
No, sir. Newtown is working with some of the commercial vendors to maybe do some large trash compactors downtown, that where your plan could be that you contract with Newtown to get a swipe card to dispose of your trash daily. So all those ideas are in the works.
So, and that goes back to the first question. At that point, I wouldn't be contracting and submitting paperwork about a commercial garbage company to business licensing. I would be submitting that I've contracted with Newtown Macon.
Yes, and again, I like what you say, that the plan is just tell us how you dispose of your trash. We're not looking for a long contract. We're not looking for that, because we're going to take the responsibility to verify it, because we're asking the vendors to let us know that we have that they give us their customer list, and we will check to make sure. We will compare the business license list with the customer list from the vendors and verify from that, because they're also going to let us know when someone cancels a contract, then we're going to follow up them and say, okay, you canceled with vendor A, what is your plan? And they just need to identify who their vendor is.
And I guess in the short term, like you said, when will, I guess, whatever mechanisms that Newtown is coming up with in cards and whatever plan is it, when that'll happen before the March 31st deadline, certainly?
Well, that's the goal, to have that in place. But again, this is new, so we understand working with people. But the ideal is for everyone to identify how they're disposing of their trash, because just putting it out in the public trash cans is overflowing, and that's not right. I mean, that is for public use of, so from that standpoint.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. But I'm just, like I said, the details that folks, because we're talking about what folks, businesses are hearing. If I do this wrong, there's a daily $125 penalty that could be incurred. And if it's some type of, that's a lot of money for a lot of folks, so.
Correct. And once y'all pass this, we will send letters to all the businesses in the 2 districts to let them know if they have any questions. They will be able to contact the solid waste inspector. I believe his name is Mr. Tinsley, and we will work with everyone.
Okay. So Mr. Tinsley is the new director of solid waste?
No, solid waste inspector. Director, the manager is Maurice Jackson, and I'm still serving as the interim director.
Okay. And again, I guess, is there any plan from the administration to have a work session with the businesses? I'm sure you've been meeting with folks, but I hadn't heard formally, and they didn't seem.
I will meet with Newtown and the downtown bid and see how we can put together the communication plan for that. And if it needs to include a work session, we can do that.
All right. Commissioner Lucas?
I'm glad to see this, because the last I heard, we were supposed to be providing twice weekly garbage pickup, and I didn't ever hear anything more of that, but I do know that other folks wanted to have that as well, and they weren't in the downtown area, but I'm glad to see that there's a plan, and that downtown group is working to put it together. The question that I have, and I've been asked by several folks who have businesses downtown, what is the law still on the books on animal waste and pet owners picking up after their pets? A number of people have said that this is a problem, and I know everybody has at least 2 dogs. Just about everybody has at least 2.
That is a great question, and I will have to research what the law is, but I do know that there is a expectation of cleaning up after yourself. I do understand that that's not always happen, but I do need to see what the code is. Legal is verifying it right now.
I've forgotten whether it was carried over from the 2 separate charters, the city charter into the consolidation charter. But I know that we voted to put in place, a provision that you clean up and then keep Macon-Bibb beautiful. Even put
stations.
those
out.
little stations out there with the plastic bags
Right.
there for people to utilize, but I don't know who's doing that. And then the other thing, the folks who have to clean the parks,
Mhm.
they have a real hard time because that's where a lot of folks are taking their
Yes, ma'am.
their pets. I don't know whether that's just a part of it, but that's just something, you know, if there's a law on the books
And you,
you're in a
right, you bring up-
confined area, then they're just different rules.
You
And
bring
in a
up-
lot of cities, people will tell you that, oh, everybody doesn't abide by this. It's just a general a rule. Everybody knows that. My sister moved from Virginia, and she had a little dog, and she always carried her little bags and all of this stuff around because that was the expectation. And so in a confined area like downtown, it just seems like that should be emphasized too. Maybe the bid group can.
because it is code. Legal has shown it is
I
still
thought
in
it
code.
was.
So it is code, and we can add that to the communication plan also.
Just as a reminder to them, because there are some folks who are concerned, they have businesses, and,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know, that's not pleasant.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Commissioner Jones?
Yes, so just for Dr. Moffitt, I guess, I like the idea you tied it to the occupational tax, business license tax, as we call it. So does that mean if someone has not identified that they have a vendor, then you can withhold that business license that we call it? Okay, think it's a good idea. Great.
Commissioner Watkins?
So just on that same, just so I'm clear, because I think I've missed it. I see where annually I need to submit my plan to the solid waste department in the document. Where does it say I submit it to business license?
That'll be in the letter that we will send to the businesses.
But the ordinance says I submit it to the solid waste department?
No.
You're correct. You do send it to the solid waste department. It will be in your renewal whenever you go to renew your business license. But the very last sentence of, let me pull it, it's sections 2232 says that it's a requirement that a plan is filed for the renewal of your business license. So whenever you go to renew, I mean, that's the teeth to it. When you go to renew, that will be a part of the of your license. We worked with Commissioner McCord's office to handle that.
Okay, so they won't have to do a separate thing at solid waste. They'll still be able to one-stop shop it at the at taxes and doing business license.
Right, it's part of this program that they'll just identify, click on that they have the plan, click on the vendor, and then Wade, tax commission officers will forward that information to the solid waste inspector.
Okay. Out of curiosity, so nonprofits wouldn't need to comply with this? They don't get a business license from us. Do they still need to send something to the solid waste department?
No, but yes, but because they don't do the business license, solid waste inspector will be making contact with them. We discussed this, how we will handle that, and so we will contact them and ensure that they have a plan.
But under this ordinance, they don't have to, nothing in this ordinance applies to them.
I think they do.
I'm sorry, the general requirement is that everyone file a plan with the solid waste inspector. If you have to do that if you can do that through business licensing because that applies to you, then that's great. But the code still applies if you are a nonprofit and you don't file, like you don't have to go to the tax commissioner for a business license.
So then you would need to go to the solid waste department.
Right, and as
So a lot of people are going to have to go straight to the solid waste department, because churches, nonprofits. I mean, but it's still, it's not maybe 10% of the things here. It's some folks here that do but anyway, but they need to do something else.
Right, and that'll be identified to them when we send out a letter.
Okay. But we couldn't find them because that's not in the fee or something? No, yes it is. Yes it is, because they needed to go to the solid waste department. Okay. So would there be like a form they fill out, or just they need to send us a letter with their letterhead?
We'll work that out through the communication plan. We'll make it easy for them, yes.
Okay. And again, I'm sure you have more questions from businesses that would probably help us implement it better if we did some type of work session with them. And so I'm excited about when you and Newtown and the BID get together and do that, because, again, they are concerned. And they want to help. I mean, they want to help as businesses. They just want to know how and what to do, and if we could make it easier for them in some ways. Because, I mean, for some folks, figuring out what is the right of way and where they can put a trash can if they don't own the building that they're in. And, I mean, that can be a challenge, because you have to find some strip of land. That can be an intimidating and daunting task for business owners, even though they want to comply. Like, they just need to have some guidance on what to do and where is an acceptable place. Right. So, yeah, thank you.
Mr. Jones?
One last comment. Sarah, you said the requirement would be listed as the last point on that form. Is that what I heard you say?
Oh, I was referring to the last sentence in section 2232, being that it's part of the your business licenses.
Yeah.
It's required for business license.
So that would be in the letter?
Yeah, we'll put that in the letter as well.
It would be the last point?
No, it's just the last point in the code. We'll make it very clear in the letter that it's your business license.
I would recommend bolding it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. At this time, we've heard the presentations. I'll need a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark, and question from Commissioner Watkins.
What do you think of the idea of, rather than it being everybody, leasees, property owners, I mean, just property owners, rather than, because again, if 800 Main Street has building A, B, and C, solid waste department is going to get 3 different things and one from the property owner. And most of those folks, I think, are paying the property owner some type of fee. It would cut down the paperwork that comes through significantly and streamline it for a lot of people. I'm just thinking out loud since we're...
Well, the thought process was...
Were you speaking to the microphone, Dr. Moffitt?
Yeah, the thought process was how we could best have teeth in this, and the teeth was the business license part of it, because the property owner does not necessarily have to file a business license. You know, they just renting the property. But again, this is our goal is to reduce the amount of trash in the streets downtown by making sure that everyone has a plan. So that's why it's an or in there of who needs to do it. So as we continue to fine tune this process over the next year, if we run across that's a better way to do it, we will bring that recommendation back to make the code change.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item C is an ordinance to amend Section 2 of the Policies and Procedures Manual entitled Human Resources for the purpose of amending and restating such section as provided herein. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Lucas. And as you recall, we've been bringing these to you one section at a time. And Attorney McNeil, you need to give them any information regarding this.
Yes, sir. And this is a short section. I'll just walk you through the changes real quick. This is our human resources section of the employee handbook. And so the first exhibit that's attached to the resolution has a red line version, so you can see everything that's edited, and then Exhibit B is the clean version, so you can see how it looks as a final. In 2.01, classification of employees, there was a conflict between this section and another section in the code about whether part-time employees have appeal rights if they're disciplined for misconduct, and the preference of HR was that there would not be appeal rights for part-time employees, so that clarifies that by just taking out the reference to the appeal rights. Section 2.02, there's no changes to for the employment at will section. 203 for job posting. The only changes in paragraph 4, currently under the Policies and Procedures Manual, there's a rule that says that if you're a probationary employee, which is the first 6 months for general employees or 18 months for fire employees, you're not allowed to apply for any other positions in the county, or if you have any active disciplinary corrective actions against you at the time, you're not allowed to apply to transfer to another position. But the decision was recommended to relax that rule to allow employees to transfer if that might be a better fit for them. It's just that the hiring manager for the new position is advised of your status and your employment record with the current position. 2.04 is the nepotism policy, which this commission changed separately earlier this year. So there's no additional changes to that. 2.05 talks about separation of employment. And so there is a new paragraph in the resignation section that says that when an employee gives notice that they intend to resign, there is discretion for the department head, subject to equal employment opportunity requirements, that the employment either be terminated immediately if they're in some sort of sensitive position where having somebody that's on their way out the door might compromise the interests of the county, or alternatively to put them on up to 2 weeks of paid administrative leave so that they're not losing out on their wages because they gave the courtesy of a notice, but they are put in a position where they don't have access to any kind of sensitive materials that could injure the county. And that's something that is at the discretion of the department heads, but subject to reporting to both the HR director and the county manager. The other significant change is we added a paragraph 3 for light duty in 2.05. And so that's for situations that are not long-term enough to be covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA gives protection to employees for conditions that are more than 6 months in duration. It's not considered a disability under federal law if the condition that you have is expected to last for less than 6 months. But this allows for the supervisors or department heads or HR to, where there is work available, to accommodate somebody and work with them to give them some sort of light duty position depending on their abilities and what's going on. So if you break your arm and it takes 8 weeks to heal, you don't have to necessarily sit out of work that whole time. You could just do something that you can do with a broken arm. There are just a few little like terminology changes in here, corrections. Like there's a reference in paragraph L to vacation pay, but we call it annual leave now, so we changed that term. No other material changes in 2.05. 2.06, we just eliminated a reference to an employment officer because that's just handled generally by HR. They don't have an employee, I think, whose title is named employment officer right now, so they just assign it to somebody in HR. So that's all of the sections in section 2, and then hopefully we'll bring the next section in January to y'all. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Thank you, Attorney McNeil. You've heard the information. We have a motion and a second. There's no further questions. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We set the consent agenda. We have 3 other items tonight, and then we have a need to go into executive session before our meeting. But the first is what we handled in the hearing at 5 o'clock. This is a resolution to authorize the mayor to close and abandon a portion of the right-of-way adjacent to 666 Plum Street and to remove such paths from the official road map, Macon-Bibb County. As you recall, this is something we're going to be doing for a lot of the blocks downtown, where we allow the right-of-way to be abandoned and sold to the first right of the property owner, and we've done that on a couple of occasions already. So this part is that, and the next one would be the actual the sale. So at this time, I entertain a motion for approval of that one. Motion by Commissioner Howell. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item 8B is a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed for the sale of that property to Homer Scarborough, totaling approximately 3/100 of an acre, located adjacent to 666 Plum Street for the fair market value of $9,965.03. Make a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Howell. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. The final item is street light request. This is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission. We discussed this previously, approving for a request for the installation of 20 street lights to be installed along Nicholas Lane, Joseph Candler Lane, Luke Drive, Hardwood Drive, Whittington Drive, etc. The facilities management budget services to a government electricity line item. This is the one that the neighborhood themselves didn't have any poles, and they paid out of their own pocket to install the poles. They had underground. It's gone through our normal streetlight request, that the resolution, the ordinance that you changed, and is recommending approval. So at this time, I entertain a motion for approval. Commissioner Howell, can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. Any discussion? Hear no discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. The next item is executive session. This is a consultation with the county attorney for legal counsel to discuss pending or potential litigation, settlement claims, administrative proceedings, all others allowed by law. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? A motion by Commissioner Tillman. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor of going into executive session, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We're now in executive session. Motion get out of executive session? Got a motion, got a second? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. We're now in executive session. Going to move back to our earlier item, and that is going to be item F on 4, is that right? Yes. Item 4F is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to the rental agreement with Skip John LLC for the rental of that property commonly known as 6420 Mosley Dixon Road and being operated as a fish and pig. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Wilder, who also is a co-sponsor. Can I get a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. Be sent to consent agenda. This meeting is hereby adjourned. We're going to move directly into our next meeting in just one moment. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Macon-Bibb County Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, December the 6th, and the time is now 6:10. I'd like to welcome everyone here for our meeting today. We have a large crowd here, some very important information that needs to be handled. And we had a previous meeting for our pre-commission where a lot of the items were already passed through our consent agenda. We're going to begin our meeting like we always do, and that's calling the meeting to order. And I'm doing that at this time. And we're going to begin with a prayer. And Dr. Ficken, I hate to put you on the spot, sir, but I know you don't mind. Our pastor had to leave, and we want you to lead us in prayer, and then we'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
We pray. Father, our strong God, who continues to look down upon your people and see the good that you have caused to come out of us and bless it. Now, Lord, we ask that you will look down upon this commission and our mayor and all the things that they have deliberated upon today to bless our city. Be with those who are present today, those who are listening in, Father, that they continue to keep their eye on government. Touch us now as we move forward. In our Lord's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Not aware of any announcements tonight, but we do have a presentation. And Dr. Ficklin, if you're going to come forward to do that presentation, and I'll join you there in just a moment. This is a presentation of proclamation to Mario Duhart, who is one of 86 students nationally recognized by the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity through historically black colleges and universities.
So the camera can see. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Macon-Bibb County, Georgia. Whereas the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity through historically black colleges and universities announced its 9th cohort of HBCU scholars, recognizing 86 undergraduate, graduate, and professional students for their accomplishments in academics, leadership, civic engagement, and much more. And whereas Macon native Mario Duhart, a 2018 graduate of Southwest High School, now a graduate of Savannah State University with a BS in political science, is currently obtaining his Master of Public Administration from Savannah State University and is one of 86 students across the nation to receive the White House HBCU Initiative or President's Scholar. And whereas the White House HBCU Initiative is an award given to 1 to 2 students from HBCU around the country, giving these students opportunities to travel to Washington, D.C. to meet the president and the executive cabinet. The candidate is nominated either by the chancellor or the president of the university based on academic merit and community involvement. And whereas Amario Duhart is very involved in his community and in organizations on campus, he is a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, a member of the Collegiate 100 Black Men of Savannah State University, a chapter of 100 Black Men of Savannah, and involved with student engagement planning and government at Savannah State University. And whereas over the past years, Amario Duhart has worked in several elections and controversial campaigns, holding positions as deputy canvas manager, field organizer, canvasser, and campaign team lead. He is a part of several national organizations such as the National Association of Black Political Scientists, National Black Professional Lobbyists, and Georgia Professional Lobbyists Association. He has experience working and participating in local, state, and federal policy issues with a long-term career goal to become a state lobbyist in Georgia. Now, therefore, I, Lester M. Miller, do hereby proclaim November 8th, 2022 as Amario Duhart Day in Macon-Bibb County, and I urge all citizens to recognize him for his many accomplishments as an outstanding young Maconite and his potential for serving this community, state, and nation in capacities yet to be determined. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the consolidated government to be affixed this 8th day of November 2022, and it is signed by our mayor, Lester M. Miller.
Congratulations once again, and thank you, Dr. Dillard, for bringing that to our attention and getting all the information to us to make sure we recognize this young man. And thank you for all that you do, Mario, and that you'll continue to do to make our community better. So we're going to move on, and I know there are several people here today regarding that. We're going to go ahead and move on with the rest of our meeting. We have a recognition of Nicholas Woodford, top football player in Northeast High School. We're doing that tonight? Okay. Not able to make it tonight? We'll do that again on the next time.
I believe the top running back in high school in the state of Georgia. And so we invited him and his coach, Coach Wiggins, who happens to be a graduate of Northeast High School, who's coaching there. And so we'll invite them back at another time.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, and we appreciate you being here tonight. We're going to move on with the rest of our meeting. Item 6A is approval of minutes from the November the 15th, 2022 regular meeting. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We have any comments on agenda items? Okay. We had one comment on agenda items tonight, and that's going to be Mr. James Graham. Mr. Graham, are you here? I'm here. Okay. You'll come forward, sir. I think Mr. Graham wanted to talk about the street light on Chandler Downs. You're correct. Sir, I thank you for being here tonight. I want to save you a little time. At our earlier commission meeting tonight, we approved 100% of your request for Chandler Downs for your street lights there. So we've accepted that. It's going to be part of our consent agenda tonight, but we'll hear from you anyway.
Okay. I'd just like to say that to the mayor and the commissioners, it was some 5 months ago that we addressed you all with a concern of the residents in Chandler Down when we was invaded by intruders that walked through our community just at will with no urgency about them at all. But during that time, we came back with you all gave me some information, and it was an encouraging meeting. You all told us what to do and how to do it. Commissioner Howell was very instrumental in us accomplishing our goal as far as our commitment of purchasing the lights on our own. And within 4.5 weeks, we collected. We didn't raise it. Within 4.5 weeks, we collected the required amount that we needed to pay for the purchasing and the installation of the lights. So we just wanted to say much obliged, and we just want to be a community that go along with the other communities have taught the need to bring light to darkness. And this was our goal, to ensure that lights will be installed in our community to evade the darkness, and not only and to curtail crime if it doesn't, perhaps the lights would be a means of assistance in an emergency situation for the life of some of our residents in our community. So we're just grateful for a privilege to approach you all once again, and we're anxious to get started. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here tonight. We appreciate you following the process and staying with that. I know Mr. Howell's been working hand in hand with you on that, as well as Rob Riles for our facility. So we'll certainly do our part to make sure that that goes off without a hitch, okay?
Thank you.
And thank you. And thank you for being here. We're going to move on to the, I don't know that we have any new business or old business, but we have the consent agenda. Consent agenda is items A through DD. There was one item, I think, that we had a commissioner that voted against. Commissioner Watkins, I think you want to handle that one separately, sir? The $66,000, $107,989 for the FAA. Do you want to handle that, or you want to do it together? Okay. We're going to run it all together. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as published, A through double D, with the exception of an item that was tabled, that would be item F. Okay, that's the item for Ovation's food services that we're going to hear next week. So this time I entertain a motion for approval. Got a motion by Commissioner Jones. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That item passes. We do have a couple of items for non-agenda items for public comments. And at first, I'll call up Mandria Spivey. Mr. and Ms. Spivey here. Okay. Hope I said that correct. Mandriez R. Spivey. Okay. Next one we have Mandriez Spivey too. Okay. And we have a Miss Dropopoulos, is that correct? On Glenwood Drive. Okay. Miss Lydia Mitchum Meredith. Miss Meredith, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Honorable Mayor. And 5 Commissioner Seth Clark. I'm here again advocating for public safety, especially in District 5, Cherokee Heights, previously noted as a high crime area. Again, I want to thank Mayor Miller for responsiveness to lack of police presence in Macon, serving 153,000 citizens with a shortage of police. I have seen marked police patrols twice in Cherokee Heights over the past 4 weeks. I want to thank this commission. I want to thank Mayor Miller. As I forestated, my goal is to make Macon-Bibb the preferred place for police to work because of officer compensation and flexibility, being responsive to cost of living increases, tenure, and performance raises. I'm still studying the compensation data I received from your office. After meeting with Judy Gordon, Macon-Bibb Neighborhood Watch Coordinator, the Unionville and Cherokee Heights Neighborhood Watch meetings on 11/16, I discovered from the attending police captain that facade policing, the appearance of police presence as an intervention for crime, had been tried in Macon. However, the captain reported that the unmanned police car was vandalized. And this is an indicator that appropriate surveillance was not a part of the strategy as in other cities, and that there is little respect for police and police property. This is a serious problem. I also learned that a $14 million amphitheater is being planned in the same community where the car was vandalized. Attacks against police and police assets is not tolerated in well-managed departments. The shortage is also due to a lack of respect for police and police assets, and this should be handled. I would like to suggest to the commission to not put the cart before the horse. Why waste taxpayer money adding aesthetic facilities as a $14 million amphitheater as target practice in crime-infested communities? The attending police captain suggested this is not a smart move. First, clear the infestation of crime, get control of criminals and criminal behavior first. Instead, use taxpayer dollars to add qualified police and reward and inspire existing staff. Add camera surveillance in challenged communities so that criminals will know that arrest is imminent when police assets are being vandalized and inappropriate behavior appear against police officers. Crime infestation, according to the attending captain, must be the priority for investment and spending. The captain also stated that I should be thanking Sheriff Davis instead of this commission because 14 new officers will soon be added to the police force. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for being here tonight. We have no need to go into executive session. I know one commissioner would like a point of personal privilege, so Commissioner Tillman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In wake of the MVP program that continues to happen, a lot of times people gauge success on the murder rate in Macon-Bibb County. A lot of folks have been doing some great work, and we're going to continue that on next Tuesday, December the 13th, right here in City Hall Chambers at 6 p.m., where we're going to ask the Black hip-hop community to join us for a conversation, discussion, round hall, symposium, right here to let's start addressing how can we as a community continue to say we want to stop this youth violence, this violence overall, if that community is going to continue to sing, write, play, and display hip-hop violence. And so in order to change a community, it has to start somewhere. And so we're going to start there with that community. So we're asking all of those young men that we reached out to, a CMD Styles, a Larry Guyton, Lock Dog, and some of these are nicknames that you guys may or may not be familiar with, but we would respectfully ask you to stand down as we communicate with these young men and try to get to the bottom and the root cause of this initiative that the mayor has implemented more than a couple of years ago called MVP process. And so we look forward to seeing those young men here next Tuesday at 6 p.m. here at City Hall at 6 o'clock. Be blessed.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
happy
Tillman.
holidays.
Commissioner Howell.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the Chandler Downs neighborhood. Thank you guys for all that came out. A special thanks to Mr. Graham. He was certainly the bulldog behind this effort. I know we changed the rules kind of midpoint on the how we funded it, but I'm proud to say I believe Chandler Downs will be the first full neighborhood in the county this getting lights. And even though you guys had to pay for the poles, and I hate that, I appreciate everybody that put work into it out there. And when people call me now and ask me how they can get them in their subdivision, I've got Mr. Graham's phone number.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly congratulate everybody for surviving the election cycle that didn't seem like it was going to end. It ends in 30 minutes. And also sincerely thank our volunteer poll workers for making this long and arduous election cycle smooth in Macon-Bibb County. Your volunteer work is often thankless, and it is not tonight. We saw you and we saw how smoothly the cycle ran, and it was because of you. So thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Clark. And you have 30 minutes left to vote. So if you haven't voted yet, now's the time to get to your precinct and vote. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. We look forward to having our commission meeting next Tuesday morning. Commissioners, we will be taking a field trip that day to see some things at the mall, and we'll try to work around your schedule on that, on some new and exciting items, but also so you can get a firsthand look of where several new departments we're going to be going to. So we're going to take that field trip tomorrow, next Tuesday, after our meeting. 13th. That's the 13th. So at this time, there's no further business that brings us here. This meeting is hereby adjourned.